Hello everybody and welcome into my latest live video. It is Tuesday, the 7th. Yes, it's the 7th of November, 2023. My name is CareyHolzman and thank you guys for tuning in. I have a new Minisforum mini PC to look at today. And as you can see, this is still shrink wrapped. I am going to do a full unboxing and we're going to go through the entire process of setting it up so you can get that full experience. This is the Oh, let me get my glasses so I can read it. This model is the UM690S. It's an AMD Ryzen 9 6900HX. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte of storage. This is a little beast of a machine based on those specs. And we have the Minisforum page set up right over here. I should be able to go to the screen capture, share that with you. Now, the link here that I'm showing you is in the video description below. Thank you to Mara for setting up today's video description and thumbnail. There's the Minisforum UM690S. You see they sell a bare bone version of it here where you put in your own RAM, your own storage, and your own operating system for as little as $351. That's a heck of a deal. So we've got the 32 gig, 1 terabyte version. We've got this one right here. It's a $500 mini PC. And if we scroll down, we'll take a look at what these specs are. So you'll see there's 3 tabs here. A lot of people miss this on the Minisforum website because this kind of blends in. But your basic specifications on the machine are as follows. And I'll just kind of scroll through that slowly and have you take a look at that. We've got USB 4 on there. And it is a 19-volt adapter that it requires. And of course, it's going to have Windows 11, as any new computer will. Pre-installed on it, unless you order the bare bones version. On the main tab, the default tab, is where you kind of get the whole sales pitch, right? This is where you're going to get the information they think is most relevant to the potential buyer, which is DDR5 RAM, AMD Radeon 680M graphics. So you could use this as a gaming PC as long as your gaming demands weren't extreme. It's got what they're calling a 360-degree thermal system. We'll have to look more into that. It supports 8K at 60 hertz video output and also dual 4K. So it looks like you can do 1 8K monitor and 2 4K displays at the same time. It's got M.2 PCIe Gen 4 solid-state drive NVMe, and it's also got the ability to add a SATA drive internally. Super fast AMD CPU. So they're going on about the CPU here. 8 cores, 16 threads, 3.3 gigahertz with turbo to 4.9, so almost 5 gigahertz. It is a little beast. All the numbers suggest this thing should be very impressive. Scroll down a little bit more. I'm not going to go through everything here. The USB 4 standard, which supports 40 gigabits per second. We can test that. You remember I've got that SanDisk external SSD that's supposed to do 2,000 megabytes per second. I've been struggling to get more than 1,000 out of it, and it requires Gen 2 USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. So I don't know if this will support it or not. I know I'll at least get 1,000 megabytes per second data transfer rate through the external SanDisk USB SSD. However, I'd love to see 2,000 because I think there's only been 2 computers I've tested that on where we've hit 2,000. Don't ask me why I need 2,000. I just try to hit the goal. Here's the breakaway of the system with the cooling fan here on top of the CPU, which is soldered in on all these mini PCs. It's a laptop CPU, which runs a little differently than a desktop. Looks like we've got a heatsink that fits over the RAM and the solid state drive, this piece right here. And then there's the optional SATA SSD. If you wanted to add that, it does not come included. I don't know why anybody would want it, but there's people in the world, okay? And I'm not going to try and make any sense of them. So we've got a couple of cooling fans here and then a VESA mounting bracket, which you could use to mount this on behind a monitor or against a wall, the side of a desk, etc., to free up your desk space if you want to. Very common with mini PCs. This is showing the airflow, the red representing hot air being exhausted, and the blue lines indicate intakes for the outside or cool air. And this kind of gives you a visual of the airflow design on which really shouldn't matter to you. What should matter is how it runs. Some people, I don't know, I don't know what good having this information is, other than perhaps maybe that's the deal that that this is the information that closes the deal and makes you decide to buy it. But it's not like you can do anything about that. You know what I mean? Like, that's how they designed it. Obviously, they're going to design it in a way that it's not going to overheat, or they probably wouldn't sell very many, and they'd probably get a lot of returns. They are using a liquid metal thermal paste, so you do not want to remove the heatsink from the CPU ever, because the minute you do that, this has to be applied in a very special way. And if you don't know what you're doing, and trust me, most of you don't know what you're doing. I don't even know how to do this properly. And I wouldn't trust some how-to on YouTube that they're showing it properly. If you don't seal it exactly right, it's just going to defeat the whole purpose behind having it. May even work worse than regular thermal compound. So in order for this to not oxidize and become ruined very quickly, it has to be applied in a very special way. And Minisforum has come up with their own way of applying that. And while they encourage you to go ahead and open it to upgrade your RAM or add an SSD or change out an NVMe drive, put Linux on it if you want, they are strongly advising you not to remove the heatsink from anything that's using liquid metal. You will break that special seal that they've applied to it that they say without the equipment, you will not be able to put it back the way it was, as good as it was. So you've been warned. Now, on the connections on the back, we've got a clear CMOS button, power button, 3.5 millimeter jack, which supports our headphone and microphone, or a headset, which is both. The USB Type-C here in the middle is a USB 4 port. The USB Type-C port next to that is a data-only USB 3.2 Gen 2. So don't let those confuse you. That's why there's the writing down below each port to identify them. And apparently there's a built-in microphone here, I guess, if you're doing Skype or something, Zoom. There's no webcam, but you've got a microphone, it appears. Now, there's our power input, which is a standard barrel connector, a standard Kensington lock. If you want to make sure this thing doesn't grow legs and walk away out of the office, you can lock it down with purchasing a third-party steel cable that locks into there, and you can lock it down to something that would deter theft. Next to it, we've got a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, two more USB 3.2s. These are Type A ports. And on the other side, two more. So a total of 4 USB Type A's. That's just perfect in my opinion. And then 2 HDMI ports. So obviously the way you're going to get, it shows an 8K monitor and 2 4Ks. Looks like each of the HDMI ports will support 4K out. And then this data only port is what I'm guessing is going to get you your 8K, unless it's coming from the USB 4. It's one of these 2 USB-Cs that is supporting 8K. I don't even use 4K. I certainly don't need 8K, so I'm not exactly sure. But if you're not getting 8K out of one, plug it into the other one. It's not rocket science. Let's see. In the box, it says we've got the mini PC, the power adapter, and power cord. Of course, the power cord will be one of 5, depending on where you live. They have a power cord for the US, Japan, Europe, Hong Kong. I'm missing a couple. It looks like Canada, Australia, and the UK. I don't think Canada's CN. I think that's China. I think Canada uses the same as the United States. So in any event, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I said 5. They have 7 different power cords, depending on what country you live in. So make sure that you order with the right power cord. The power cord is what connects from your wall outlet into the adapter. We've got a small HDMI cable, and that looks like if you wanted to mount this behind the monitor, it's a very short cable. Mounting screws for the VESA bracket, which of course is included. And of course, there's a user manual. Now, this is also sold at Amazon if you prefer to order from Amazon. Let's take a quick look. We have a link to that in the video notes as well. Oh, here it is. Now, the version they're showing here, there's several versions down here, keep in mind, at different price points. Looks like they're a little bit more money. Venusseries UM690, DDR5, 32 gig, 1 terabyte, Gen 4 SSD. So maybe this is our unit right here. There's a $140 coupon you'd click on. That's going to bring that price to what, $549. So it's about $40 more than the Minisforum store, I want to say, for that same config. Let me go up here and verify it. It does make sense. Minisforum has to pay a commission to Amazon. So if you buy it from Minisforum directly, you'll usually save money, and Minisforum makes more money. When you buy it from Amazon, of course, you may get prime shipping, you may get it faster. Well, my understanding is Minisforum does handle returns just fine. It might be a little peace of mind if you've worked with Amazon returns and you're familiar with the process, if you should want to return it for any reason. At least you know what you're in for. Whereas with Minisforum, it will be a new experience. But I wholeheartedly endorse Minisforum. I think they're a great mini PC manufacturer. And of all the mini PC manufacturers, between Minisforum, B-Link, and Ace Magic, I put them in that order of my personal preference. I think, B-Link's got some great machines that compare neck and neck with Minisforum, except a lot of times B-Link does not offer bare bones versions, whereas Minisforum does. So quality-wise, support-wise, pretty neck and neck in my opinion, depending on the specifications and the form factor and the color. That might be a bigger differentiator for you as a purchaser than any of the the quality of the units are basically, as far as I can tell, pretty identical. TrigKey appears to be a sister company related to B-Link, so I recommend TrigKey as well. But they're effectively just a rebranded B-Link, is all TrigKey is. Now, when it comes to other manufacturers of mini PCs, it's kind of hit and miss. Some of them are great, some of them aren't. With many of them, you're never going to have a problem, so you're never going to reach out to support, and you're never going to know what their support's like because you'll have no reason to. On occasion, you might reach a manufacturer, and they're usually the ones that sell for the least amount of money. So the least you're going to pay, the less you pay, the more you should prepare yourself for an uncomfortable or frustrating support experience. I'm going to just tell you right now, when you're paying a little bit more, you're not only getting supposedly higher quality, but in the rare event that there should be a problem, you should expect support. And the more you spend, the better, higher expectations you should have for the type of support, response, the quality, the response time. So if you want to buy just the cheapest thing out there from some brand you never heard of, and you want to get it off AliExpress, that's a one-way trip in most cases. It's just like buying at a garage sale. It's yours now. Enjoy it. And if you have problems with it, you're on your own. And if you're okay with that, that's great. But just don't have unrealistic expectations and think that you're going to get Mercedes customer support on that Chevy you just bought. Very different experiences when you pull up to the dealership in a basic everyday car and you pull up for service versus when you pull up for service in a luxury car. If you've never experienced it, you wouldn't know any better. But once you've had that luxury car experience, oh man, be prepared to be disappointed for the rest of your life if you go back to getting an ordinary car and getting ordinary service for those ordinary prices. So that's what makes the world go round. When there's more money involved, there are fewer customers. There aren't as many Mercedes on the road here in the United States as there are, $30,000 cars, GMs, Toyotas, and Nissans, and Fords, Chryslers, etc. So as a result, your business isn't as important to the companies that are selling cars by the million every year. Your business is more valued when you're paying more for a more exclusive item because they want you to come back again and buy some more. It's time to buy another Mercedes. They want you to come back and buy the Mercedes for them. They're going to make sure your entire ownership is a great experience. In some cases, they don't, but they're the ones who pay for that, and it's not a sustainable business model at that price point. So you'll just take your business somewhere else. Maybe you'll go to the BMW dealer or the Audi dealer, and you are going to get treated very, very well. They definitely want to make sure you're taken care of because there aren't as many of you as there are of just the general population buying a car. So, well, the service at a dealership varies from one to the other. The cheapest car I bought was a Hyundai, and the worst service I ever got was a Hyundai dealership. And the most unreliable car I ever owned was the Hyundai that I bought new. Now, that's just my experience. I'm not speaking on behalf of, every Hyundai is built the same or every Hyundai dealership is going to be run the same. But it all ties together in my mind. It makes sense. I paid the least amount for this brand new car, and it was great when it was new, but it fell apart quickly. And it was extraordinarily unreliable. Even simple things like headlights. Every year the headlights would burn out like clockwork. Why aren't they using LED? Why aren't they using something more robust? Why are we using older tech? Because it's cheap. And why did I buy it? Because of the price. Well, I spent more time and more money at the dealership than if I would have just bought a BMW, honestly. And at least if I had to take the BMW to the dealership, it's a pleasant experience. I pull up and I get greeted. I pull up to the dealership at the Hyundai, dealer, and there's nobody around. I'm like, what do I do? Do I get out of the car and walk around looking for something? And that's what I ended up doing. And many occasions I would just became sort of expected. I'd pull up, nobody there. There's 4 different offices for service advisors, all empty. I suppose I could steal stuff if I wanted to, but I walk into the dealership. I go up to the counter where there's a receptionist, and I go, can I get some service out there? That never happened at the BMW dealership. In fact, when I pulled up, they knew who I was. They'd have I guess, scan of the license plate or something. Hello, Mr. Holzman. Mr. Holzman. Wow. What would you like for a loaner today? Do you want an SUV? Do you want the sports car? You can get a loaner at Hyundai, but there's a price difference there. And to be honest, it really wasn't that big of a price difference. But when I say I recommend Minisforum, B-Link, and Ace Magic or Ace Magician in that order, it's due to both a combination of quality, variety, like being able to buy bare bones. B-Link is starting to offer that, but Minisforum's been offering it as a normal thing they've been offering. Not a big fan of the rubber feet having to get removed to open up the many Minisforum builds, but I'm hoping they'll address that. Minisforum's also expanding into keyboards and tablets. Oh, and even little gaming rigs. In fact, Minisforum has a YouTube channel. If I take you over to there, let's take a quick look. Go over to my YouTube channel. Or let me go to YouTube. And I'm going to just go in the YouTube search for Minisforum. And what I'm going to look for is I'm going to get a bunch of reviews, right? And it's ironic that Minisforum's site their YouTube channel doesn't come up right away. You're going to have to dig for it. I am seeing all sorts of reviews of Minisforum product. So if you were just searching like I am for the word Minisforum, you wouldn't even find their channel. So I'm going to find it here for you. And then that way you'll have the link for it. We'll be sure to add the link because you should subscribe to them because they're showcasing a bunch of new products that are coming out that this is the only way you would know about it. So let me look real quick. I haven't shared the screen yet, I'm aware. Minisforum, let me just put channel. That did it. So a search for Minisforum channel. And now I can share the screen with you right here. And if we go to videos, you'll see that they've got the an AMD tablet coming out here. They've got the UN1265 in magic blue. The UM690S, they're saying, is the cooling king of mini PCs. The BD770, which is a mini ITX board. It's an AMD version of the Intel board that we reviewed here. And there's the UN1265 we reviewed, the HX77G. I don't know if we did the 99, not the 77, but they're in the same case. And these are all Minisforum produced videos, so they're all going to be very short, 30 seconds, 3 minutes. And of course, biased, right? Because it's the company making their own videos. But they have very few subscribers here. I would definitely recommend subscribing if you're interested in wanting to know the latest in their products. This thing is really neat. They're having this PC where essentially you can come up with your own design and print it out, and then you stick the design that you did on the lid, and a light shines through it, and you can have your own design. How crazy is that? That's on the UM780XTX, which I think Minisforum sent to us, and we'll be reviewing that later this week. And of course, they had a big Halloween sale. I told you guys about that. They had some really good deals. And if you're like, oh darn, I missed out, just my luck, don't worry, they're going to have a Black Friday special, I'm sure. Everybody will. So there'll be other opportunities for there to be some sales. This is the mechanical keyboard they're coming out with. They're really expanding. And I just wanted to demonstrate this because if you wait for content on YouTube to show you new products from companies, you might have been made aware that these products were coming out if you would follow these companies on their YouTube channel. B-Link has their own YouTube channel. They all do. And they're all almost universally very barely subscribed to. I mean, they've got under 5,000 subscribers here, which is crazy, crazy low. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. And then you can choose what you want to do if you're interested in that sort of thing. And let me say hello to everybody in the chat room that's joining us. Sorry, guys, give me just a second as I get everything straightened out here. Paul O'Brien contributed €2 before the show started. He said, "Let the contributions take hold. Good evening, Carey." Hey, Paul, thank you for your continued support of the channel and your friendship. I appreciate you. Ben Laird, joining us from Scotland, contributes £2 and says hello from Scotland. Gregory Howard, a new friend of the channel, contributes $20. He says, hello, Carey, in chat, where in southwestern Ohio, the temp is 70 degrees Fahrenheit and partly cloudy. Where's my coffee maker? That's a fair question. Gregory ordered and paid for the, I got the computer right here, and I haven't touched it. I need to get to that this week. Really, the work I need to do to it is very minor. It's just some cable management, I think I hooked it up the other day just to get Windows updates on it, but there's more Windows updates I have to put on it. But yours is next. Planet Cryos contributes $2. He says, hello, Carey, from upstate New York. Thank you, Planet Cryos. And thank you, Gregory Howard, for your patience. And don't worry, it's okay to ask, where is my computer? Sometimes I need that kick in the butt where the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of a thing, because it's just me working, I can get very easily distracted. But just to show you I'm not all talk, I can prove it. It's right here. It's right here. And the reason I put it right in front of my face is so I can't forget it. I have to step around it. So I have some cable management to do. And as you can see, it pretty much is in the same condition it was in the last time I showed it on camera. But I've got to tidy up the cables, and I got to make sure all the RGB splitter is plugged in so that this will light up correctly. And then the glass cover goes back on it. That's what this bar right here and these screws are exactly where I put them when I made this video, which time flies when you're having fun. Was that a month ago now? It's been more than that, but we're so close. And I'm anxious to get it out of my way. Trust me. So I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your support of the channel. You're going to love that computer. It is so cool, and it's fast. Kind of hate to give it up, but I could always build another one. And I've got so many here right now. I have to give them up. I have to. What choice do I have? But Gregory's already paid for that. So that ship has sailed for me anyway. But I want to make sure that it's, I always go through these things very meticulously, and it takes a bit of time, but it has to get put up on the bench first. So, yeah, I'm going to try and get that done this week and then hopefully get it shipped out to you by Monday. That's my goal. I really want to avoid shipping after Black Friday because like UPS is hiring 60,000 temporary workers. Some of those workers are good and thoughtful. And some of those workers are just going to drop kick boxes as quickly, to get them loaded or unloaded as quickly as possible without any concern for what's in the box. So I do ship after Black Friday. I don't want to. So I need to get that out to you, Gregory. Ben Laird said, what bothers me about mini PCs, as CPUs get more powerful, how are they getting cooled? Yeah, there is this very bizarre fascination with heat in computers that exists solely on the internet. Before the internet, nobody talked about this stuff. So it spreads like a disease. For some reason, for some societal reason, certain subject matters grow hooks. And whether they're relevant or not, it sort of gets into the interest of the hive mind, if you will. And heat issues, for me as a technician, very rarely do I ever get a call for a computer problem that's having a heat issue. It does happen, but it's so rare. If you recall, when I built the Cosmos 2 computer back in 2013, we put a liquid cooler on it. And I said, this liquid cooler is probably going to last about 3 to 5 years, and it'll go out. And I think it was 3 or 4 years later, the Cosmos 2 computer came back to me. It was sold locally. The guy said it was getting really hot. You touched it, like if you touched it, the case was hot. And I said, it's probably the liquid cooler, right? And sure enough, when I turned the machine on, and this is all live on camera, when the computer came back 3 years later, when I touched the hoses, they were almost too hot to touch after I had left it on. So it was like, okay, we need a new liquid cooler. The guy says, that's fine. He authorized the purchase of the new cooler. I slapped it on there, recable managed it. Haven't seen it since. So that's the only heat-related issue, apart from when I'm building a new computer, like that 14900K. Forget mini PC, right? The 14900K is a beast to cool. And I'm still trying to figure out the best way to cool that. I've got an EK all-in-one 360 millimeter cooler coming, liquid cooler. And I'm told that will cool it. Till we make it's like $200 to buy this cooler. Plus it was $600 to buy the processor. What you got to keep in mind on the mini PCs is they're using laptop processors, not desktop processors. And well, yes, if you're going to keep getting more and more frequency, you're going to you're going to consume more power. And when you consume more power, you're going to generate more heat. The good news is, and I want you to think about this, when you're building your own computer, the manufacturers have no control over what motherboard you're choosing, what BIOS settings you're selecting, what cooler you're going to pair it with, what case you're going to put it in. But when you're buying a mini computer, that's all been engineered into its design to operate effectively. Now, that's not to say there haven't been issues, heat-related issues with some really high-intense gaming mini PCs. B-Link recently came out with a new bottom panel that they shipped to people that bought the, what was the name of that PC? The GTR 7 and the GTR 6. And basically what they did is they drilled a bunch of holes in the bottom of that bottom panel, and they said, we're sending the bottom panel to, if you ordered and registered your computer with them, then they reached out to you and told you, we have a new bottom panel. We're encouraging everybody to switch to bottom panels. No expense to you. You just have to ask for it and verify with your serial number that you're an actual owner, and they'll mail you one, and then you do the work yourself. Now, I've not had any heat issues with the GTR 6 or 7, quite frankly, but I'm also not gaming on them. So to me, it's hard to believe that just drilling a bunch of holes in the bottom makes that big of a difference. And apparently, from what I understand, there was some debate internally with engineering at B-Link when the unit was released that some engineers, my understanding is, were fighting for this bottom having holes in it, and others were fighting that it was unnecessary. And then apparently once it was out in the wild, they had enough complaints that they said, okay, we're going to just proactively release this to everybody, even those who didn't complain, because it isn't going to hurt you to have, these extra holes on the bottom. But that, again, it's so rare. When else can I use an example? There's such specific examples. And Minisforum on the website goes through the detail on the page, specifically talking about their cooling. I think they even said this is the king of cooling. So now I haven't had a Minisforum or a B-Link PC overheat. So, if this was happening all the time and it was just like an epidemic that many PC owners suffered with, I could certainly understand the level of discussion and how frequently it's talked about online. But it's off balance. You've got 100 million people talking about heat issues, and you've got maybe 1 million people having heat issues. Maybe not even that. So, I think most people, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but most people who are so obsessed with the temperature of their computer have never experienced an overheating problem and don't have any justification for this anxiety. They're just jumping on a bandwagon. Like, the human species needs to have anxiety. We need to be scared all the time. I don't know what that's about. And obviously, I'm not talking about everybody, but I'm talking about in general the population. The news does their job to scare us every night. And, with the pandemic, I see people driving in their cars with the mask on and the windows rolled up. And I'm like, what are they doing? So there does seem to be some reason people latch on to stuff that isn't really there, but they're convinced it is, and they want to make it a priority in their life to avoid having to deal with it when there's nothing there to deal with to begin with. Now, if you are having a heat-related problem, let us know here and we can help you resolve that. But to be so fixated with heat as though it's something you're trying to avoid, you don't need to try to avoid it. The average computer owner that goes to Best Buy and buys a computer, or they buy a computer online, doesn't deal with heat-related problems. That's an enthusiast problem. That's from people that are overclocking their machines. In most cases, I'd say over 90% of the heat-related problems are self-inflicted by the end user pushing the machine beyond what it was designed to do. The other 10% are just poorly designed machines. You bought something super cheap from, AliExpress, and maybe it's going to have, it's likely. Or you bought a really high-end processor, but you cheaped out on your cooler, and you did it to yourself. So if anything, I guess when all of this is all said and done, I guess all I'm trying to say is I would think that an engineered system designed for the parts that it has would be far less likely to have a heating issue, an overheating issue, than something you built. But maybe I'm wrong. Planet Cryos contributes $2. He goes, this is my sponsor-free contribution. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Also, Planet Cryos had a cooler that he just reviewed for, is this going to cool a 14900K? And then he didn't give us the answer to that. I was very interested. Is that going to cool it? So apparently there's going to be a follow-up. So be sure to check out Planet Cryos' channel. He's got some great videos. I don't know where all his money's coming from, but he's got quite an investment in some high-end hardware, and you should definitely check it out. He does, never mind the hardware, he does a great job in the videos. Keeps them very interesting, and they don't rattle on like mine. So if you enjoy more reasonably sized content. And besides, he's a community member and a supporter. Show him a little love. Go over there, give him a subscription, give him a thumbs up, and who knows? Maybe you'll become addicted to his content. Elijah 52 Dickens with a $40 super chat. Oh, very generous. Thank you, Elijah Dickens. And David Graham contributes $2. He says, for the star of the show. Hey, Mara, I think David just gave you $2. Thank you, David. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you, Planet Cryos. Oh, I missed an earlier one. Planet Cryos contributed $5. Keep the money coming in to keep the videos coming from Uncle Carey. Yeah, I'm starting to now. I've used all my Amazon gift card money. I was saving it up for Black Friday, but I wanted to get that RTX 3090 so I could finish up the server. So that I had to basically use the gift card money, and then the other half of it basically went on a credit card, which I hate to do, but I've got to keep the content moving. And so I'm hoping that I'll be able to sell some of these systems and be able to use that to pay off the credit card. Around the wheel turns, right? In this YouTube economy. YouTube's payments, I'm telling you, I'm almost at a point right now where if YouTube keeps doing what they're doing every month, they're paying me less than the month before, but the memberships are going up. And I think once the memberships represent 60% of my monthly income from YouTube, because they're at 40% last I checked. But my YouTube revenue just went down again. So I suspect membership revenue is now making up more than 40% of the monthly income. And you know where this is leading, right? If making the content for the general public is resulting in paying me pennies versus making content for members, which is actually bringing in a livable, sustainable, I should say, income stream. I think I need to say what the next step's going to be. Now, at any time, YouTube could change this, right? Something could change. We can go back to potentially how it was. But in the meantime, I'll still be making videos one way or another. It's just a matter of how frequently can I make them and who am I making them for? And it's going to be what's affordable. So I can't believe I thought I've already hit rock bottom with YouTube's income, and no, they're digging down deeper. It's crazy to me that I could have more videos in my library, more subscribers than I've ever had, and my income is less than what it was 3 years ago from YouTube. It makes no sense to me. And YouTube is banning, without any notice or warning to content creators, for something called illegal click activity. And I suspect there's going to be a class action lawsuit here pretty soon, because YouTube won't go into any detail over what is the click activity that's illegal, where's it coming from, and where's your proof. So in other words, they take all your money, they don't give it to you, they ban you for life. And it could be something a viewer did to you. It may be nothing you did. I think a class action lawsuit is coming. Mark my words. Because people's livelihoods are now being affected by it. And this has been going on for about 3 years. YouTube's getting worse. And, you need to provide evidence. They need to be more transparent with what it is they're dealing with, because apparently they're not dealing with it correctly. So that just adds, so with memberships, it's something else. I don't worry. Anyway, let's see. Elijah 52 Dickens renewed support, now a member for 14 months. Right on. Thank you for that. Ian Gooch contributed £10 and says, hey, Carey from London. Cheers, Ian. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Planet Cryos contributed $2. Said, have a sip of Gatorade. Great idea. Thank you. And David Graham with $2 says, $2 a day keeps the collectors away. Again, everything adds up. I appreciate all the support and all the kindness. And there's our good friend Oystein watching us all the way from Norway. He said, what's the difference between this UM690S and my mini PC, a UM690S? I don't think I understand the question, Oystein. Thank you for the 100 Norwegian kroner super chat. But there are a number of variations, configurations you can buy for for just about any model. I'm going to show you the side of the box. You can compare which of these dots are selected because these are all the different configurations and possibilities that are going to affect the price. And I don't know which UM690S you have. Presumably you would have the same CPU and the same Radeon card, maybe a different amount of RAM and storage. Or if you've had your machine for quite a while, maybe it's not a UM690S. A lot of Minisforum model numbers are very easy to get confused. But you'd have to tell me what the specifications are. Which CPU, how much RAM, how much storage, and when did you buy it? Because I don't know what you bought. Green Dragon just became a supporter. Right on. Thank you, Green Dragon. Do know that every Monday we do members-only videos. They are never made public. And now that you're a supporter, you can go back and see all the Monday's videos you've missed. Sometimes they do a repair. Sometimes, you know, I try to mostly keep the repairs public, but every once in a while, I feel like I have to give something more to my members. And like yesterday's members-only video was mostly just talking about what's coming up for the week. They're very informal hangouts, and the chat room isn't as chaotic as a normal video because there's only about 40, 50 people watching at a time. So I get to mostly see and talk to everybody. Versus on the public videos, it's really a matter of by chance that I happen to catch you, unless you're contributing and then your comment gets highlighted and it draws my eye, which is why I can see those. Cujo wants to know, do I need third-party malware software for Windows 11? I trust your opinion. I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends on how you use your computer. If you're someone who downloads stuff all the time, if you're a curious person, or if you're somebody who kind of sticks to a routine, the built-in anti-malware antivirus that Windows 11 comes with is probably good enough for most people. If you want a little added protection, I would pay for Malwarebytes, me personally. I'm using Malwarebytes less and less now. As the subscriptions are expiring for my clients, I'm no longer renewing it because since we've had it, it's not really doing anything to prevent any infections. My clients have good surfing habits. They're not opening unusual or unknown attachments or clicking on links in emails. And Microsoft antivirus has gotten better and better at it. So whether or not you need it, if you can get a good deal on a Malwarebytes license, a lot of times Newegg has them on sale where you can get a three PC license for $30 or a 5 PC license for $50. Just know that that license is activated on the first PC that you install it on. So if you wait 3 months before you install it on the second PC, you only have 9 months left. It's not 1 year on each PC. It's 1 year with the same start date and the same end date for all the PCs you install it on. So if you've got a 5 PC license, if you installed it on 4 computers, let's say you did it all today, then they'll all have a full year of protection. But no matter when you install it, the expiry date is 1 year from the day you installed it on the first PC. So if you're on month 11 now, you've got 30 days left and you've never used that 5th license. And now let's say you got a new Minisforum PC or whatever. You put Malwarebytes on there and you plug your 5th license in it, you'll have 1 month left before that will expire, just like all the other machines. So it's not an individual 1 year. For that, you need to buy individual licenses. That's generally how multiple licenses work industry-wide. Whether or not you need that, I mean, I'm going to have to leave that up to you to decide if that's something you think that would benefit you. $55 Staying Dude said I guess there's a UM690 and a UM690S. Maybe that was Oystein's question and I didn't understand it. 55 Staying Dude says that the S model of the UM690 has better cooling. Yeah, they did make a big deal about the cooling on the website. David Graham said email these days is scary with all the phishing PDFs. I don't know why email would be scary. I get tons of emails every day And I can instantly tell when something's a scam. It's so obvious to me. I'm always looking at where, not the name of the person who sent it, but the email address of the person who sent it. And that's usually your dead giveaway right there. And my Microsoft Outlook has automatic spam filtering, which is nearly 100% accurate, nearly. So, a lot of people have been getting messages on their phone about the post office not being able to deliver a package or UPS not being able to deliver a package. That's all a scam. The minute you see that, you know it's a scam. No delivery company is going to message you unless you signed up for messaging. So when I'm expecting a package from DHL will message me. They'll say there's a package that's arriving, and if you want, you can do a no contact release so we can, we don't have to wait for a signature. We can leave it at your porch if you want to take responsibility for it. And so, yeah, I don't want to have to be locked here waiting on a package, not knowing if it's going to arrive at 8 in the morning or 8 at night. And I can't leave and do anything because the minute I leave, that's when they're going to show up. And then they're going to leave a notice on the door if I don't pre-authorize the release. So when I get those, I know I have packages coming. It's not like I don't know. Whenever I get anything from UPS or USPS, in almost all cases, they're fake because I haven't signed up for any of those. I've signed up for FedEx notices and I've signed up for DHL notices. Anything else that comes in, I get offers from Samsung wants to sponsor you. There'll be a link to OneDrive or Google Drive. Nobody from Samsung is going to be attaching a file through Dropbox or a third party. They have their own servers. It would be hosted on Samsung servers. And then, of course, you look at the email address, look at the poor English that's often used. And I really like how they'll sign it, sincerely, the Samsung team. Like, nobody does that in real life. That doesn't happen. So, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious to me if I've got any attachments to emails from people I don't know, or things I didn't sign up for, companies I didn't sign up for, I'm not even going to open them. I'm not interested. I don't care. Curiosity killed the cat. I got other things to do besides wonder what's in this. Nothing important. And the delete button removes any concern of getting infected. Just saying. That's my thought on that. Elijah 52 Dickens contributes $5 in Super Chat. He says, I will send funds through PayPal or Amazon. You get more. I love what you do, Carey. Well, yes, I appreciate that. YouTube is taking 30% of all your Super Chat contribution, and then they make me wait 30 to 60 days before they pass that money on to me. And if YouTube says I've got illegal click activity and take my money, they take all your contributions. They take them. They don't return them to you. Versus PayPal, which takes 3% and I get the money immediately, or Amazon gift cards, where I'm likely spending the money anyway to buy stuff needed for the show, they take 0. And I get all of it. You want to support the channel, you want to make sure every penny that you are contributing goes to the channel. Amazon gift cards is the only way I know to do that. So, apart from sending me a check or something, which, look, I'm not out here doing a telethon. I'm just letting you know that based on the contributions and based on what YouTube's paying me, that's controlling how much content I can create and what that content is about. That $15,000 server we're working on for Serve the Home wouldn't have happened. There's no way I would be putting together a $15,000 server. Wouldn't do it. We did the $10,000 Beast build. Then the problem was, what do I do with it once it's built? There's not too many people in the market looking to spend 10 grand on a high-end dual computer. Got lucky that our good friend Doug Betts over at Live Windows Training with Doug Betts was in the market for just such a beast and was willing to drive out from California to pick it up because it likely wasn't going to survive shipping. And well, that was just a match made in heaven because I gave him a good deal on it. I got the burden, the financial burden off my back. Won't do that again. I was hopeful that, a system of that caliber would have generated far more views. It did not. So the answer isn't always in how much the content is worth. you know, like a more expensive computer would get more views and therefore generate more revenue. There doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason to why certain videos get more popular than others. I haven't been able to crack that nut. I've been doing this since 2008, and it surprises me anytime a video outperforms another video. I can't make heads or tails as to why. So do know that your contributions, especially if they're Amazon gift cards, they go into Amazon purchases, which are primarily 98% of my Amazon purchases are content related, and the other 2% are personal items I would order. Soap, shampoo. I try to avoid going to the store as much as possible. I don't order groceries. I still go to the grocery store. I still want to look at expiration dates and go up and down the aisles and see what new products are out. But yeah, the vast majority of contributions, Amazon gift cards, all going into the content for the channel. And then a lot of times, depending on what the content is, it may be some giveaway that we do or sold at a severe discount so I can get more revenue, so I can buy more stuff, so I can make more videos, and around the circle goes. Planet Cryos just contributed $20 in Super Chat. He said the all-in-one was a tease for the 14900K. Well, it worked. He says, I just got it installed. Testing is needed. I picked up the Thermal Grizzly frame for the CPU. Okay. Might help with the flatness, thus making better contact. We will see. I have several videos coming. Are you going to test it with and without the frame? Because I'm kind of curious if the frame actually is beneficial. MDD 1963 says, greetings from Okinawa, Japan. What do they say? Konnichiwa? Welcome in. Thank you for joining us. I think it's time we can start unboxing. We've been live now about an hour, and I haven't done anything yet. Gone over the specs. We know what to expect. We have a price. We have, we've gone over different configurations. And now we get to do the live unboxing. All right. So in the box, here's how things are packaged. These videos, I want to remind you, they're all live, unscripted, and unrehearsed. And everything you see is happening in real time. So when I do an unboxing, there could be a brick in here. A cockroach could come out. I have no idea. The good news is that's never happened, but it is possible that we have an item that arrives dead, that's not functional. But if you've been following the channel for a while, you'll know that that's very, very, very rare. So I'm pretty confident when I do these live videos that things are going to go as expected. They typically do. Sometimes we get some unexpected interruptions. Packages get delivered. But we haven't had any fires get started or anything like that. Sometimes I misspeak. That's about the worst that happens on these live videos. Got a couple of cards here that one is, it says a slow boot time may be caused by a BIOS reset or RAM replacement. This is just a boilerplate thing. Don't call us if your system boots slow once, especially after you've made a change. It does that when it resynchronizes things and retrains things. So that's normal, and it'll boot fast again after that initial slow boot is done. Then we've got a warning here. Do not recommend customers remove the CPU cooler themselves. We were just talking about that. Improper disassembly may damage the motherboard and CPU. Could also reduce the liquid metal sealing tightness. Warranty service is not provided for damage caused by improper disassembly. I think that goes without saying. And then it looks like we're using a standard Minisforum case. They didn't do anything extraordinary or exotic here. Sticking with tried and true. And let me bring this up to the camera and I'll show you close up what this bad boy looks like versus the pictures we saw. This will give you some reference to size. So there's the front of the unit. One side, other side. And then of course the back. If you look at the top, Really not much to see. On the bottom, there's those, oops, this side, there's those dual fans. Generally speaking, oh, and you see we've got rubber feet here. You notice there's no visible screws. That's probably because they're underneath these feet. And are these feet plugs or are they stick-on? Oh, they're plugs. Okay, now that I appreciate. It does look like there's a little bit of sticky tape and then the plug, although, you know, when this thing is seated on top of the feet, it's not like they're going to need that sticky tape to hold them in place. Gravity will do that. Got a little weight to it. It's probably 2-3 pounds, I would guess. But I appreciate that Minisforum has gone with these type of feet here versus just a flat foot with a sticky surface, because that drives me crazy. And clearly, there must be screws down in there somewhere. Pretty far in there. You're going to need a jeweler's type screwdriver to get down in there. And then that's how you would open it up to do any sort of upgrades. Okay, so that's an improvement I like to see. The other two holes here in the bottom, these are for mounting the VESA bracket, which I don't use. Okay, back to the box. Oh, I also want you to keep in mind, sometimes the review units are different than the units they sell. We had a review unit here a while back from Minisforum that had a 1 gigabit Ethernet port when it was advertised as having a 2.5. And I didn't know if it was because I got a, what's the word I want? Basically, if I've got a early review unit, you know, to build up excitement for the upcoming new model. Or if a mistake was made, either on the website, falsely identifying it, or on the unit I received. And I did reach out to Minisforum and ask them, and they said that initially it was going to have a 1 gig Ethernet port, but during production, as they were ramping up production, they decided to make that change to 2.5 gig. And so to let everybody know that I got a pre-production unit, and as such, that's not what's shipping. And the website, the way the website described it, is how it ships with the 2.5 gig. Which is, you know, sometimes people ask me if I'll sell these review units, and it's like, well, the review units are not meant for resale. And a lot of times, if you do sell them, it's considered kind of a slap in the face to the manufacturer, because the manufacturer doesn't want those in the retail space. They don't want customers having those pre-production models, those prototypes, if you will. And the serial numbers are noted so that if you call for support and you're like, oh, I bought this computer from CareyHolzman. Well, they're not going to say that computer wasn't meant for sale, but they will likely tell you that's not a supported computer. That was a review unit. So I don't want to go down that path as much as I would like to be able to sell units, to use money to buy more units than sell as it. I do sell the units I buy, but I don't, anything that's given, I don't sell, because again, it's likely not going to be supported as a, because it was marked as a review unit, and it may be built differently than what is, you know, in retail stores. Just depends if I get an early review. Like this came to me quite a while ago, and Minisforum asked me to hold off. Apparently they were, something was going on, and they finally gave me the green light. I think Sunday. They said, okay, you can review that now. So that's why I wanted to do it today, because it's been sitting here a while. Of course, if Minisforum sends me a unit and says, hey, please hold off, don't, that's very unusual for that to happen. But of course, I'm going to honor their request. So I'm excited to try this. You know, it's been sitting here a few weeks now, and been excited with the specifications. The specs of the system look very impressive. So I have high expectations. We're using a standard power cable there, which I like to see. There's our power brick. We'll put video in here. Either one of the HDMI ports will work equally for our video output. And then I just need a keyboard and mouse. I do not, as a reminder, I don't plug in internet access on a first boot because it'll force me to create a Microsoft account online. And I don't have a Microsoft Online account. I don't want one. And if I'm building computers for customers, I don't want to give a customer a computer that has my Microsoft account on it. So I make what's called a local user account. And we do that during the initial first time setup of Windows 10 or Windows 11. Have to have no internet connection for that to happen. Now, I fully expect all the computers we get probably for the rest of this year are all going to have 22H2 of Windows 11. Because 23H2 just came out and it's going to take the manufacturer's time to build a new image. So don't expect, like if you're ordering a new computer today, unless it's being custom built, you should fully expect you're going to have 22H2. If you get 23H2, that's great and everything, but it's still too new and too early to expect that on new builds. Likely it'll be after the first of the year. And even then, sometimes it can take up to 6 to 8 months before manufacturers spend the money and take the time to create a new image. They just tell you, you update. There's always going to be updates anyway. So we've got I was getting the keyboard and mouse. Keyboard and mouse, here. And I don't have a USB type A on the front. So this will have to go in the back. Just put that there. That should be all I need. Now I'm going to turn on my HDMI input on the capture card here, which is where did it go? There's the close-up camera. Camera 1, camera 2, window capture. Oh, HDMI input. So here, let me move that down. I'm going to turn on HDMI input now. Let's see, to bring that down. Then I can put the camera corner. Okay, now we're ready. And again, this is all live, so we're going to see everything in real time. Obviously, our first boot up will take longer. Blue light is on. I hear the fan running. We've already got our host screen, so we're off to the races pretty quickly here. It's a little smaller. Whoops. Les Stevenson says, Carey, Amazon Canada is having a pre-Black Friday sale on computers and accessories at good, deep discount prices. Pretty cool. Right on. Well, I hope you take advantage of that. Let us know what good deals you get. Jason Willis says that power brick's almost half the size of the computer. Yeah, it's about as tall and as long, but it's only just a fraction, just maybe a fifth of it.
To set up your device using a screen reader, turn on Narrator by pressing Windows plus Control plus Enter. For more accessibility features, press Windows plus U, or select the accessibility icon in the bottom corner.
Cujo1357 became a supporter. Thank you, Cujo. David Graham contributes $5 in Super Chat. Did you address that unauthorized site you saw? I don't know what you're referring to. Mark Gaines contributes £2 and says to check my PayPal. All right, well, let me go through this here real quick. Let me go to full screen so I can see this the way you guys see it. Okay, so English, yes. United States, yes. Keyboard layout, US, yes. Secondary language keyboard, no, skip. I don't have internet, good. So that option exists here with their configuration. Continue with limited setup. Now that's going to enable me to create a local user account. Accept the license agreement, and I'll just put the name user, SER, enter, enter. And of course, you know me, I turn off everything but location settings. That way the date and time will always be kept accurate without us having to make changes for daylight saving or anything else. The clock naturally loses time on its own. So I like to leave location settings on for a number of reasons. And now while we're waiting, let's check the email. Oystein with a very generous Amazon gift card for $100. He says, thank you for making another video for one of my mini PCs. Keep it up and keep it real. Very generous as always, Oystein. Thank you so, so much for your continued support. Mark Gaines joining us from Northern Ireland sends a PayPal of $23.68. And again, thank you for supporting the channel. I appreciate you very much, both of you. And Newegg says my order was delivered. Yes. I know that, Newegg. I ordered some more parts for some more, basically they're i3, sorry, I don't use i3s. They're i5 13500 processors. I think I have 5 of them brand new now. So that tells you I've got 5 upcoming builds using that chip. It's still, I think, the best bargain out there. So I've got some more, I've got motherboards, I think, arriving today too. So slowly but surely, it's all coming together. I've got 2 other mini PCs, one from Minisforum and one from Paladin. I'll try and get all 3 of the mini PCs reviewed this week, time willing. Okay, so now that we've gotten past the initial setup screen, now I'm going to go ahead and plug the internet into it, and we'll hit Windows Update. Also, we can right-click on the Start menu here and go to System and just verify that we have 32 gigs of RAM. We can verify we've got a Ryzen 9 6900HX. Windows 11 Home, not Pro. It's Windows 11 Home. 22H2. As I predicted, of course, I would be shocked if that was 23H2. Some people still aren't being offered 23H2 through Windows Update yet. Microsoft is rationing it all out. So the last couple I had to do manually. But if you're just patient, it'll come automatically through Windows Update when it's your turn. So all that looks good. I am waiting for this little globe here to become a little monitor as it handshakes with my router and gets assigned an IP address. There it goes. And now, go to Settings, Update. Sure, we've got some updates waiting for us. And while this is checking, I will turn this option on. I'll go to Advanced Options. I turn these first 2 options on here. And then this bottom one. Then we can look under Optional Updates. Right now, 0 available, but that may change after the check for updates is completed. And while that runs, I can tell you the fan is quieted down from initially when it started up. It was noticeable. I wouldn't say it was loud, but definitely you knew it was on. And now you can just barely hear it, but you can tell it's on. It's not completely silent. Some people are concerned about Windows 10 Home versus Pro. I don't know why. Unless you're in an office and you need to log into a server, or unless you're using BitLocker on purpose, can't see why anybody would want Windows 11 Pro. It's not giving you anything. Mainly, it's just those 2 things. A remote desktop, but I would use a remote piece of software like Instant House Call before I've never used remote desktop. Much prefer to use a much more robust, secure piece of software. So for me personally, if a machine's got Windows 10 or Windows 11 Home versus Windows 10 or Windows 11 Pro, I can't tell the difference. It doesn't make any difference in how much memory you can put in or how many applications you can run. It doesn't do any of that stuff like the old days when the Pro version, lets you put in bigger storage or more RAM or whatever. As far as I know, all that's gone. So it's mostly a mental condition that people just want it. They don't have any real logical reason for requiring it. They say, I want Windows 11 Pro, and I ask why. And often the answer I get is because that's what I've always had. Okay, but it's not going to do anything for you that you're not already doing in Windows 11 Home. Why would you go through the time and effort? Well, you put Windows 11 Pro on everything. Well, that's right, because for me, when I'm buying the licenses at VIP CDK deals, the price difference between Home and Pro is like $2 or $3. So I just throw Pro on, giving people more than they need, essentially. So it reduces the odds of a support call where somebody, very rare, somebody might call and say, I want BitLocker, or I need to log into a server. Why isn't it working? Well, because you have Windows 11 Home. Oh, well, I need Pro then. And then that becomes a support issue for me. I don't want to support some computers with one OS and some computers with another. I want to build them all the same across the board. So I know, basically, if you're my customer, I know you have certain things that I don't have to go and look up what was specifically different about your machine. Your machine will be pretty much identical in the way that I build it, in the manufacturers that I choose to build with, as every machine I ever build. That's how one person can run a computer company. You've got to keep things as much the same as possible. So if you want to insist on putting Pro on, I think you're wasting your time and you're wasting your money. And it's your time and it's your money. But it's not, I don't think it is what you think it is. So it doesn't bother me one bit that this comes with Windows 11 Home. It's not going to do anything any differently. If anything, it's a benefit because you don't have to worry about BitLocker being turned on by default and affecting your SSD speeds, which I posted an article about if you follow me on Twitter, you can check that and see if you're affected by it. It's only something that affects Windows 11 Pro users. So it's not all good stuff on the Pro side of things. At the end of the day, it's your decision. Just doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't follow any logic. It's an emotional decision, and I can't back those up. If a customer wants Windows 11 Pro because that's what they want, I'm happy to deliver that. If a customer wants Windows 11 Home because that's what they want, I'm happy to deliver that. If a customer wants Windows 10 Home or Pro, they're the customer. You know, I'm more than happy to give them whatever they want. But I will make sure the customer understands, like I'm going to ask, why is it you want this? And we're going to establish in that conversation what the customer's expectations are, because I don't want that customer to have unrealistic expectations and then end up being upset at the computer they get, not doing something they thought it would do. So I make sure they understand what it is they're asking for. And as long as they say they understand, they comprehend what they're asking for, and they have a realistic idea of what they're going to receive, great, we're good to go. The one way that I guarantee I always have happy customers is I always make sure those expectations are set before the transaction takes place. You got to be very clear. This is what you're getting. This is how it's going to work. These are its limits, or these are things you don't need. These RGB lights won't have any impact on your performance. They won't have any impact on your reliability. They won't have any impact on your security. They will have an impact on how much money you're spending. You're okay with that? Yes. Okay, let's go forward. So stuff like that is done strictly so I don't have the headaches of the customer calling and saying, hey, I thought this thing would be faster because I got the red lights on it. I don't want to deal with that. I'd rather, if they don't like the expectations, well, let's get that out of the way before we conduct business. You can take your business somewhere else, right? Because I don't make enough money in this to have to deal with avoidable support calls. It's bad enough when there's a a real support call, like a power supply just happened to die, or somebody accidentally deleted something, a mistake was made. Those are legitimate, unavoidable support calls. If I can avoid it, I want to get that out of the way before I take any money. I'll tell you that right now. As a sole employee, I can't have one customer, come to me wanting some bargain basement price and then turn around and need a bunch of support. It's a quick way to go out of business. Peter VZ contributes €1. Hey, thank you, Peter. And let's see what else I'm missing here in the chat room while we're waiting on these updates to install. Timothy says, good afternoon from Surprise, Arizona. Hey, welcome in, Timothy. David Graham says there was a YouTube site selling stuff in your name. Yeah, there's if you go looking for stuff like that, David, you're probably going to find a lot of it. There's really not much we can do about it. Some of these folks are in other countries where US law doesn't apply. My name is not trademarked. There's really nothing I can do to prevent people from doing that. There could be another Carey Holzman they're referring to for all we know. So no, I don't really care about stuff like that because my name doesn't carry that much weight in regards to selling product. I'm not a celebrity. Like they do this to celebrities all the time. I see advertisements that have George Clooney in them. That is a screenshot, or Jeff Bridges from The Big Lebowski. I see him in the college newspaper. They're taking a freeze frame image on that and putting a caption. That's all completely illegal. I don't know how they're getting away with it. And there's not much these celebrities can do. You can see the celebrities, if you follow any of them on Twitter, cursing these people out. But, unless you want to pay for an attorney and file a cease and desist, and that's assuming they're in the United States. If they're outside of the United States, US law doesn't apply. So if you don't want to see stuff like that, don't go looking for it. And I'm sure you had the best of intentions, but that's been going on since I started as a public figure. That's been going on since basically the first month. The good news is those sites don't get a lot of traction. And, if they want to use my name to sell something, that's their bad decision making. It's a problem that usually solves itself. But I appreciate you looking out for me. And don't worry about it. If you search my name online, you're going to find a bunch of stuff out there that I don't authorize. The good news is, if you look at how many views they get, it's practically non-existent. So best thing to do is don't give them any attention. Don't go looking for it. Don't go giving them those clicks. Just know careyholzman.com. This YouTube channel, I've got a couple other YouTube channels, and there's a couple of Facebook pages that I have as well. Other than that, ignore the other ones. They just dry up and fade away. So just the nature of being on the internet. Happens to everybody. Easy Otter said RGB is in PC speakers now. I didn't know that. Oh, RGB's been in PC speakers for like 10 years. And they've got RGB in chairs and mouse pads. It's crazy. So many fans, is it noisy? No, it's not noisy at all. I barely hear it right now, but of course, we're not really utilizing much CPU power downloading and installing updates. Usually during the process of an update installing, we will hear the fan ramp up and go down. As the CPU heats up, the fan will spin up faster and generate more noise. This is another bizarre concern where there are a fraction of people online who make a big deal out of fan noise, which it's white noise. I like to have a fan on next to my bed when I sleep. I like white noise. So if this was making a grinding sound or like a beeping smoke alarm that needs a battery change, it drives me crazy. But a fan working, I don't know what it is, but I guess just knowing it's doing its job, I get kind of happy when I hear it because I know it's working. If I don't hear it, then I wonder, is it broken? So for me personally, I appreciate the white noise. And I understand some people are very sensitive hearing wise. The older we get, generally our hearing sensitivity is decreased significantly. So also the size of the room you've got it in and how full or empty the room is, where if you have sound that's bouncing off the walls and echoing, quieter noise will seem louder. But that's usually solved by putting some furniture in or some carpeting down. And I think in my career, I've maybe had 3 customer calls where noise was a complaint or a concern. You know, could we make it quieter? It's a very unusual request for anybody to pay anything for. If the noise was so loud that you had to talk above it, that would be a different story. These are small fans. They don't get that loud anyway. So some people are just less tolerant than other people. There's some people you're just never going to make them happy. They're either going to be concerned about heat issues that don't exist or fan noise that nobody else notices. They have that right. Those aren't necessarily customers I want, quite frankly, because to me, it's ridiculous. You know, if you want an abacus, go buy an abacus. If you want a piece of electronic equipment, you have to understand electronic equipment beeps and buzzes and what you expect electronics to do. But if it's excessive, I would let you know. And there's nothing about the fan noise that's excessive. In fact, I can barely hear it right now. And when it first ramped up, it was noticeable, but it wasn't like I had to raise my voice to talk over it. It just sounded like a fan running. But would you not want a fan? You can buy a fanless computer, but don't expect it to go very fast. Hey, there's Jim KJ3N joining us. Paul 1980 said, I found YouTube is putting full-length commercials in front of videos. I had to laugh when the 3+ minute commercial was longer than the video I wanted to see. And what do you think the odds are the video you wanted to see was actually paid for by a manufacturer and was really just a commercial in disguise? That's the thing that cracks me up, is how many of you complain about the commercials that are placed in front of the commercial that you're calling a video. I wonder how many of you are self-aware of that. Nick Poverman says, when will we get a follow-up video on the HP with the booting issue? Well, I'm still waiting on suggestions to come in. And in the meantime, I've got these other projects like these mini PC reviews, the server to finish up, and the NAS recovery that I'm doing for a client. It's not like I'm setting that aside and saying, I'm going to do anything but that. I will get to it as soon as my schedule allows, but because that is a channel project, it's a classroom learning session. It has no schedule. It's just as time permits. In the meantime, it's giving people an opportunity to participate who are joining in late. Remember, the vast majority of my viewers are brand new. If I have 1,000 viewers today, 700 of those 1,000 will be first-time viewers. So that gives folks an opportunity to see the video for the first time. I'm still waiting for a different approach. It hasn't happened yet. So as long as it hasn't happened, I don't feel as though it's time yet. Even if I had the time to do it, I would wonder, gee, if I let this sit a little longer, would somebody actually come up with a suggestion? So I'm looking for a type of suggestion, an area of the PC I want to look at, of the operating system or of the disk, that nobody has suggested yet. So in the meantime, I've got mini PC reviews to do. As I mentioned, I've got all these other projects going on. I got 5 builds waiting to be done. So it's a project that will be picked up as time permits. It's still sitting here. It hasn't gone anywhere, and I haven't touched it. I haven't done anything to it. No changes have been made off camera. Peter contributes €1, €1.88. Is that how you say it? Thank you again, Peter. Thank you again for supporting the channel. Paul Howe says hello. Welcome in, Paul. Luke Greeny is joining us. Bull142 joins us. Welcome in, guys. There's Blackwatch. I haven't seen Blackwatch in a while. Welcome back. Gary McGraw says, Carey, it's saying to restart now. So when it says to restart, but it also shows that it's still installing. See right here, it says it's installing. My personal preference is to wait for that install to complete. A lot of times the install will complete during the restart process, but we're not getting there any faster. And I want to make sure that it shows it's completed. It won't tell you when you restart the computer and it's finishing the update, you don't get a status if the update failed or not. So my personal preference is I wait until everything is completed. Sometimes I break my own rule if I grow super impatient. That does happen. But most of the time, my preference is to wait for this to finish. Once all this is finished, then I will restart. I decide when to restart, not the computer. Also, those little checkboxes I showed you that I was checking here in the advanced options here, this is going to put a notification up on the screen once it's actually ready to restart. You'll see that when it happens. And now we do have an optional update here that wasn't there earlier, and I'll grab that as well. So yeah, see, I wouldn't be able to do that if we restarted. So let it do these updates, and then we'll get a pop-up on the screen because of those options I selected. That will only happen once the updates are truly done. So just so you know. That's the way I've been doing it here for years. So, I mean, if you're in blue, you've been watching me for some time. You should know that's what I do. It doesn't hurt anything. I want to restart it now. It wouldn't cause any problem, but it fails to provide me information I want with regards to the status of the update, if it was successful or not. So that's why I prefer to wait. You'll see that change to an install all, which isn't going to do anything because it's already installing. So you can't really believe that button is accurate. Nick Pofrin said those cumulative updates can take a long time. I usually go do something else for a while. Yeah, even on that $15,000 server, waiting on those cumulative updates isn't really much faster on a high-end PC. So don't think to yourself, oh, I wish I had a faster PC for these cumulative updates to go faster. In many cases, it won't make much difference. So I agree with you. Best to just walk out of the room, go find something else to do, go watch some TV. The computer's the most patient thing in the world. You could go to bed, wake up in the morning, and it could be sitting there for 8 hours, patiently waiting for you to click restart. Or you can configure it to automatically restart after a certain amount of time. And when you wake up in the morning, it'll be restarted and again, patiently waiting for you. So we're 25% on that big cumulative update. Once that's done, that looks like the last one, and then we'll restart. And then we'll check for updates again. And then we could throw Prime 95 on this just to test, since they are making a big deal about the cooling. Running Prime 95 on a mini PC isn't really what they're designed to do, and I don't expect mini PCs to pass that test, quite frankly. But every once in a while, we encounter mini PCs that in fact do. If there ever was one I would expect to pass, based on what Minisforum is saying about the cooling, I would expect this to do that. But we shall find out as soon as the updates are done. We'll run that test. And then, of course, if you have any specific questions about the configuration, like, for example, who makes the network card? I just thought of that one. Let's right-click, go to the device manager, take a look at network adapters. And it looks like it's an Intel i225V. That's a 2.5 gig LAN adapter. The wireless adapter appears to be an RZ. I don't know who makes that. Is that Realtek? It's a Wi-Fi 6E adapter, which is good to see. We should start seeing Wi-Fi 7 adapters here soon, probably after the first of the year. I don't know who that is. What else do I want to check here? I want to get rid of this little cartoony thing down on the search bar. I'll just type in search permissions right there. Scroll to the bottom under more settings, turn that off. Cartoon goes away. And then I will check our power plan because I don't want the machine to go to sleep on us while it's updating. So we'll go to edit power plan right down here. Turn off the display is set to never. Oh, that's interesting. And put the computer to sleep is set to never. Very unusual out-of-box settings that Minisforum has chosen, but I'm okay with that. I'd rather have it set to never than the default of 10 minutes, which drives me crazy. It certainly explains why we haven't seen the screen go to sleep yet, because it was never going to, and I'm good with that. Now, when you get it, you can configure it the way you like it. I normally set it to something like 2 or 3 hours, but a lot of times I'm doing time-consuming things like installing updates. You know, if this goes back in the box when we're done with it today, I will need to take it out of the box and update it after a couple of months, and there'll be a ton of missing updates. And of course, the screen will shut off multiple times if it's turning off every 10 minutes, and then I can't see what the status of my updates are. So I'll just leave it to never. Alhaj provides us a link to the Wi-Fi card from AMD, AMD press releases. Oh, very interesting. AMD and MediaTek develop AMD RZ600 series Wi-Fi 6E modules to enhance laptop and desktop PC connectivity experiences. Hey, that's a great link. Thank you for providing that. That's the first I've heard. So we've got an AMD CPU and an AMD Wi-Fi adapter. That's great. Good to know, and now I will know that moving forward. Hey, Mara, can you put the link to that? Yeah, that Alhaj just. Yeah, that's interesting. Thank you. We're getting there. Almost done with that cumulative update. The fan hasn't really gotten any louder. Not yet, anyway. So far, these updates aren't requiring that much demand on the resources, clearly, or I know the fans get louder because they were louder initially when we turned it on. But again, nothing exceeding, it's not a banshee or anything. Now, you can expect to be able to play games on this. I'm sure games that aren't that demanding, like League of Legends or, you know, games of that nature are going to play just fine. Whether or not Cyberpunk plays at an acceptable level, I don't know. There are other YouTube reviewers that's pretty much all they do. As far as I know, I'm the only YouTube reviewer that doesn't do it. So do know that just because I'm not covering certain types of tests that the computer can do, there are other YouTube channels that do it. That's why I don't feel a need to do it. It's already being done. I don't need to repeat. And there's so many thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of games out there. There's no way to cover every game that you could be possibly playing if you want to know how well it performs. My advice to you would be order it from a place where you know you can return it if that's a concern. If the main reason you're buying it is to play a specific game, then order it from Amazon where you've got 30 days to return it at no cost for any reason, and see if it does what you need it to do. How the job you want a computer to do is probably unique only to you. So looking for the information for somebody else that shares your interests, all of your interests, highly unlikely. In fact, somebody like you would make a good candidate to be a YouTube reviewer, to review those games that you feel like nobody else is doing. The unfortunate side of things is when you do that and you see how little views you get, you'll see why people aren't doing it. It's because there's not much demand for it. On the other hand, maybe I'm wrong and there's, your video goes viral. But these types of things, if a machine holds promise for you and you think, well, that has the potential, the best thing you can do is get it in your hands rather than asking somebody. The accuracy of the answer is never going to be more accurate than your own personal experience and your own hands-on with it. And that answer really only applies to you. So whether you like it or you don't like it doesn't necessarily mean that that's information beneficial to anybody else, that they would agree with you. So that's why being able to return an item is so important if you have any uncertainty about it. And that's why maybe paying a little bit more at Amazon for that peace of mind is worth it. Planet Cryos contributes $5. He says, I left for 20 minutes and you're still here. I knew I could count on you. Well, we usually go about 2 hours. So we started at 1 o'clock Phoenix time. It's 20 to 3 in the afternoon here in Phoenix. So we still have another 20 minutes before we hit the 2-hour mark. Now, I don't end it right at 2 hours. Sometimes we'll end a little early. Sometimes we run a little bit late. Today, we will obviously be running a little late because once this update is finished and we reboot, we got to check for more updates. And then we need to run Prime 95, which can be a 20 test, unless we reach, 90 plus degrees Celsius, in which case I'm going to stop the test early. In which case we may stop on time. But if the cooling is everything Minisforum says it is, I fully expect this will run 20 minutes in Prime 95 overheating. We haven't gotten to that stage yet. So we'll likely run maybe 2.5 hours. So we still have another hour of a show to go, it looks like. Ray Burke says hello. Hey, welcome in, Ray. Steve Mercure says, hey, Uncle Carey, I know you are a music lover. Do you have any thoughts on the new Beatles song, Now and Then? The AI technology to make that happen is impressive to me. Yeah, I talked about this the other day. I've noticed as these rock stars are getting older, their music's getting slower. The Rolling Stones' new album, Hackney Diamonds, it's got like one rock song in it, like Angry, I think is what it's called. And the rest are kind of bluesy and slow. Duran Duran has their new Dance Macabre album, which is all Halloween kind of themed. And they've got a couple of remakes they did, which I don't understand. They remade Billie Eilish and they remade a couple other things. They've got pretty good sound though, overall. I mean, of the new albums that have come out, I'm most impressed with Duran Duran's, although again, some of the remakes I'm scratching my head at, but maybe that's why they did it, right? And then the Beatles, Now and Then, they initially they had these tapes that were left to them from John Lennon, where back in the mid '90s, the three remaining Beatles in the mid '90s did "Free as a Bird" from these tapes, and there was a second one, which name is eluding me, and they tried to do Now and Then. That's why you have George Harrison on guitar, because they were intending to release that in the mid '90s when they did the other two. They just couldn't separate the audio out. And then it got forgotten. So thankfully, it got forgotten, because if they would have waited until the technology was brand new and did it, it wouldn't be as good. So now the AI technology has had time to mature. And just because Peter Jackson had done that Get Back documentary, Peter Jackson mentioned to Paul, I could separate this out with AI. I can pull that piano away and separate John's voice. Would you guys want to do that? And Paul talked to Ringo, and yeah, they were like, yeah, we should totally do that. And Paul even mentioned, they go, you know, would John have agreed to this? And who knew John better than Paul, right? Paul's like, John would have been, you know, heck yes, without a doubt. John would have been completely on board with it. But it's a very slow song. So it's definitely not a song I care to listen to again. It's neat. Technologically, it's neat. But I feel like these songs that they redid, you know, from the tapes John had, we're never going to make it to an album anyway. I think John, probably any musician, has a lot of different songs that they experiment with. You know, Prince's library is supposed to be massive. And Prince said these aren't good enough to release. But he puts them away thinking he might revisit them. They're missing. It's like you're making a dish and it's missing something, you don't know what it's missing. So you put it away and then maybe come at it fresh-minded and it'll come to you. It's missing on it. So Prince has, I think, hundreds, if not thousands, of unfinished tracks that Prince didn't want released, doesn't want released, and they weren't good enough then, and they're not going to be good enough now. And I kind of feel like that's where these songs, that the last three songs, Free as a Bird, is the one I'm not thinking of. They did. Guess I'm going to have to Google it. Nobody's mentioned it. Real Love. So they did Free as a Bird and Real Love, and it's 1995, 1996. And they were working on Now and Then when they did these two. And they just couldn't get the quality there. So they just said, okay, that's the best we got, and gave up on it. And it was Peter Jackson who said, hey, you know, I can do this for you. He brought it up. There's the pop-up I was telling you we were going to get when it was truly time to restart. That just popped up on the screen. And now I'll hit the restart button. And that happens when I turn that bottom little switch over in advanced settings to notify me when restarts are ready. So now we're going to go through some of the updates. They can't finish updating until those files are closed out, which means Windows has to shut down. And much the same way, it's nearly impossible to change a flat tire on a car unless you stop the car first. So it's kind of the same idea here. Files that are in use can't be updated while they're in use. So they have to shut Windows down, shut those files or services down. And once they're shut down, they can replace the files or services and then restart. And when it restarts, it puts them back in use again. That's why restarts are necessary, in case you were wondering. As for the technology, I think it's really cool. And I think it's really cool the Beatles have released a new song. You know, the Beatles, Paul McCartney's in his 80s, right? Mick Jagger's 80. Willie Nelson is 92. These guys are still out touring and they're still making music. Who would have thought? You know, Willie Nelson's the biggest shock of all. You know, he He's on his tour bus nearly every day, going from one city to the next. He loves what he does. 92 years old, still playing that guitar and singing. Mick Jagger, 80 years old. He's still dancing on stage. He's in great shape. The guys from Duran Duran, Simon Le Bon, John Taylor, they're not spring chickens. They got to be in their 60s. Still doing it. That's crazy to me. So I am all supportive of the idea of singers continuing to do what they do, whether it's Dolly Parton or Cher or any of the others that have become staples, icons in the music industry. But I also feel like the music has not changed with me. I guess that's the best way to explain it. Whatever the appeal is for the kind of music the Stones are making today, this music that John was writing, again, I don't think it was good enough that John was ever going to release it. Something he was experimenting with. I don't know that this song ever would have seen the light of day, except that that's what they have. So we use what we have. And it's pretty cool. And again, Prince has a lot of unfinished songs. He's a perfectionist, so he has more unfinished songs by far than songs he actually finished. And some of them I've heard are pretty darn awful, and I can totally understand why Prince didn't want to release it. But, Prince's attitude was, I can fix it. I just don't know how yet. But if I put it away and revisit it at a later date, or maybe collaborate with somebody and get some other ideas, there's enough here to save it. There's something there, but it's just not all quite there. So anyway, they were talking about releasing a bunch of Prince's unreleased songs, and I bet Prince would hate that, from what I understand. But that new Duran Duran album, which you can look up here on YouTube, they've got, all the audio for Dance Macabre. And the first track on it's pretty catchy, I think. And it very much sounds like Duran Duran. The other tracks, not so much. Yeah, and the new Stones doesn't sound like the Stones to me. But I don't know, it almost sounds like the song is skeletal, like it's missing instruments. It's not a full sound. Then when I think about it, that might be the Rolling Stones style. Paul 1980 says, for Mitch, I'll mention that Toto is still going strong. I think Mitch just posted something on his Facebook page about a new concert tour they're doing, if I'm not mistaken. Planet Cryo says, should I buy a 4080 GPU or wait for the 5000 card? I know some of the connector issues I would wait for the 5000 because a lot of what you're doing, Planet Cryos, is showing off a lot of the newest technology. So you're late to the game now on a 4080. So if I were you, now, maybe if you were going to get an S version, right? They're supposed to be coming out with the S version, which has more RAM. You've now set an expectation that you're showcasing brand new stuff, bleeding edge stuff. So under that logic, I'd wait for a brand new model. So before the 5000 version, the S version should be out. That might be worth what that's going to cost to make a video for. Let's see. Garfield saying good night. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us today, Garfield. Jimmy mentions Clint Eastwood. Well, he's not a singer, though. We certainly see a lot of actors, still doing great work, whether it's... Who was it that said they were going to retire? Somebody said they were making one last movie and then they're done. And then there's a new documentary about Sylvester Stallone that got released earlier, November 3rd on Netflix. He seems like a real down-to-earth, well-grounded guy. Documentary's very slow, so I watched about 20 minutes of it. I'll probably end up watching 20 minutes at a time. I think it's an hour and a half. but I'm just very surprised by how well grounded he is. Andy wants to know what system 3090 is going into. So the 3090 is an exact replacement for the server from Serve the Home. I thought I was pretty clear on that. The cost of repairing it versus the cost of replacing it with a renewed model just made more sense to me to get the renewed model than all the risks and time involved with repair, not knowing if it can even be repaired and how much time is going to be spent shipping and the money spent shipping and getting it back, and then end up either still having a non-working card or a card that ends up not working again if the repair is not thorough. So by getting a refurbished or renewed card from Amazon, sure, it's about twice the price of the repair, but I have it now. I don't have to wait. And if there's anything wrong with it, I can, as long as I have the 30-day return policy with Amazon on it, send it back. I think $900 essentially for an RTX 3090 Founders Edition is a steal. I think they still had 7 or 8 of them left in inventory. So it's a heck of a deal. All right, let me go full screen over here again. We're going to revisit Windows Update. Now, the other Minisforum PC, I might go ahead and unbox it and go through this whole unboxing thing off camera and get it all updated, put 23H2 on it, and then do the review. I'm sort of doing a little of both. So some people like seeing the unboxing, some people don't care. I also like to see, you know, when we're going through the initial finalization of the Windows 11 install with any new computer, sometimes the configuration is such that the option that I don't have an internet connection doesn't exist, and you got to Shift F10 and do the OOBE/bypass NRO command, reboot, start again. I'd like to get all that out of the way on some of these, and on others, I like to showcase it, you know, the entire process. So given the circumstances, kind of the decision on this one was made for me because it was kind of a last minute. And I didn't know if Minisforum was going to, you know, when they tell me to hold off on a review, I don't know if the reason behind that is they're having second thoughts on the whole model. For any reason, it could be the CPUs are hard to get, or, you know, there's some distribution issue with parts, or on the other hand, that they're making a modification to it. Who knows? But it's possible they say, you know what, cancel that altogether. Now, they've never done that before. They never canceled it. This is the second time they've asked me to hold off. So I don't know what's going on over there, but I think the wait was worth it. I'm pretty impressed with this little guy, given how much power and the fact we're getting 32 gigs. It is DDR5, and it is Gen 4, and you're at a $500 price point. That's a screaming deal. You know, that 3090 I just talked about, after sales tax, was about $1,000. So, you know, here you're getting the case, the power supply, the CPU, the cooler, the storage, the RAM, the motherboard, the operating system for $500. That's pretty good, pretty darn good. When you're considering an entry level like N100 mini PC is likely going to set you back $160 to $200. This is 2.5 times that cost, but it's like 5.5 times the amount of power resources. So normally you get 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gig of storage on those cheaper computers. So here you're getting twice as much RAM, and it's DDR5 RAM, so it's faster RAM. It's dual channel, which the N100 isn't going to support. And then there's the processor itself. So for the amount you're getting in return for that added cost, seems like this is a much, much better value. You know, people, they aim for that cheap stuff and they don't realize how much they're getting ripped off on it, in my opinion. It's so much cheaper in the long run to spend more up front and get more. Then your value of what you're getting is much better value. And the legs that it has, the length of time that it's going to last, and likely the quality of build and customer support go up the more you spend. So a lot of people who are shopping for the cheapest thing end up buying 3 or 4 cheapest things in the amount of time that one person buys this and keeps this for the same amount of time. Who do you think spent more? Not to mention the inconvenience of it all. So a lot of times it's worth it to tighten the belt if necessary and make some sacrifices. Amazon's got layaway now, so you can start to make payments on things, and as soon as you pay it off, then they ship it to you. And if you're terrible with saving money or whatever, it's a great way to make that sacrifice and just get something better than the bottom of the barrel. And after 4 or 5 years of ownership where you're still using it and you realize you've never owned a computer that long before because all the pieces of crap you're buying that are bottom of the barrel, either they're unreliable, they stop working, or they're just so low on resources that after 3 years, they're just driving you crazy with how slow they become with, let's say the new Windows 23H2, for example, or the big Moment 4 update that occurred prior to that. Your computer might have been running great until that big update came in. And then what do? Do you want to put money into it to try and upgrade it when it's all limited right from the get-go because you spent so little? I'm telling you, one of the key ways to avoid being broke is to stop buying crap. Make the sacrifice to buy something quality. It doesn't have to be top shelf. It doesn't have to be best, most expensive thing that's made. But by the same token, as long as you scrape the bottom of the barrel, you're never going to leave the bottom of the barrel. I can tell you that from experience. And if that's where you like to be, don't let me get in your way. But the best reward you can make for yourself, for your sanity, for the value of your time, and the value of your money is to spend a little bit more upfront for something that offers you better value, more performance, has a longer lifespan, and better support. And then all that money you would have spent replacing the unit time and time again during the course of ownership of a decent one, you could be using to buy something else. So that's why I always say when you're staying at the bottom of the barrel, it keeps you. It keeps you there. That logic will, as long as you keep justifying buying the cheapest thing, you're never going to have anything else. You'll never be able to afford it. So at least Amazon makes the layaway possible. And then, this way you're not forced to discipline yourself to, some people have 40 bucks in their pocket, they got to spend it, So you give that 40 bucks to Amazon, again, give them another 40 bucks. Before you know it, you'll have the thing paid off and you'll have the nicest computer you ever owned and you'll have the pride that you did it on your own, you did it yourself. I'm telling you, any of you do that, you let me know if I'm wrong. There won't be any regret there. You're going to wish you'd have done it earlier. And you'll think back of all the money you could have saved if you'd have adopted that logic years ago. But I lived at the bottom of the barrel a long time. My family lived that way. The 80s were a tough time. I don't want to go back to that. I'm also not driving a Tesla. I don't have that kind of money. Maybe someday. But given a choice, the last thing in the world I want to do is going back living the way we lived in the 1980s. Whew, it was rough. Yeah, that's my motivation to get out of bed and go to work every day, is to not have to live like that anymore. And my motivation to getting decent things is the same, to keep me from going back there. Right? Keep yourself elevated up just a little bit. Just, you don't have to go very far off the bottom of the barrel. Just get off the bottom. And it's amazing how other things fall into place. That's what I learned, anyway. Les Stevenson says, goodbye, Carey. Fantastic live stream. As usual, catch you next live stream. Fantastic review. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, Les. You too. Thanks for hanging out with us. Once we finish this update, we're going to go ahead and do the Prime 95 thing. We just now are at 3 o'clock here in Phoenix, so we've just now hit the 2-hour mark. So I'm anxious to get the Prime 95 test run, see how the cooling, because they're making a big deal about the cooling. Let's see if it's all talk, or let's see if it holds up. With Minisforum, I fully expect it's going to hold up. I'll be surprised if it doesn't. Been surprised before. Thomas MacT says, lay away from Amazon. I'll have to look into that, especially on Black Friday. Thanks for the information. Yeah, there's a, see if I go over here to, let me go to window capture here. And you'll see you shop year-round with Amazon layaway, pay over time without a credit check or any hidden fees. Amazon layaway is not available to all customers and not available for orders shipping to Connecticut, Washington, D.C., Illinois, Maryland, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or outside of the United States. Visit Layaway FAQs to learn more about your eligibility and other payment options. So the Layaway FAQs, eligibility, availability, all of that. You'll find information here, how you make payments, all explained. If you're interested, you can learn all about it. And a very easy way to find this page is to just go to Google, type in Amazon space layaway. And the first link Google provides you with should take you right here. That's how I got here. And why not take advantage of that? Especially on the Black Friday deals. That way you can lock in those prices, even if you don't have the money to pay for it that day. It's like we got 242 people watching worldwide. So again, welcome in, those of you just joining us. You'll be able to watch this video from the beginning. Well, you could do that right now. DVR mode is on. You can rewind this video as you could any other video. But when we're done here, YouTube will process the video. It'll probably take an hour or two, and then you'll be able to play it back like any other video in HD. Once the processing is completed, you'll know because the chat room will play back. You'll also know that you're watching a replay of a live video when there's a comment section. Right now, there is no comments. It's live chat only. When it's a chat playback, it can be confusing because people think it's happening live, but it's a recording of what happened live. As I speak, it's live, but when you're watching this, you know, if it's any time after 3 p.m. at Phoenix time on November the 7th, 2023, you're watching a recording of a live video. David Graham says, not fair, I live in Illinois. Well, I think that has to do with your congressmen, your state senators. You'll have to figure out which law it is that's preventing that. And of course, the other thing you can do is if you know somebody, if you have a family member in another state, that can put it in their names, and then they can just have it shipped to you. There's an option there as well. People get creative with workarounds, loopholes. All right, so that has completed. We'll, whoops, let me go back. 0 updates in the optional. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to grab my utilities flash drive here, plug it in here. So, and let's open the folder. I'm going to put VLC on here like I always do with all my builds. It's a quick install. There's a new version of VLC, just came out last week. I always like running the latest version of any software, especially something like VLC, which is pretty important to me. And then I also want Uncle Carey's Windows 10 out. And your PC testing software will run Crystal Disk Mark. See what kind of performance we're getting out of this 1 terabyte NVMe. We'll run hardware info, Prime 90. And I'll bring CPU-Z over just in case we want to verify any specifications of like the RAM stuff. Hit finish here, continue, close, optimizer. That run real quick and then reboot. Give the system the benefit of the doubt for making sure things are tuned for the best possible performance before we run these tests. Oftentimes, the way most reviewers just take something and they unbox it and they review it, they're not getting updates. They're not optimizing the system. You know, that's a fair review, right? If you're an average user and you're just planning to take it out of the box and start using it, do know that it may not be tuned. In most cases, it isn't performance tuned by the manufacturer. They're trying to find a balance between making sure it runs quietly, not generating a ton of heat, also reliably. So they will find sort of this middle ground. A lot of times, for me anyway, I can eke out a little bit extra performance without impacting, you know, any of those factors. I'm not going into the BIOS and tuning anything. It's just strictly some Windows settings. And depending on how you use the computer, it may not even make a noticeable difference for you, but it won't hurt anything. And I think that's the most important, is that we're not causing any harm. By running the optimizer, it's either going to benefit us or it's not going to make a difference, but it won't do anything detrimental. So with that, I'm done with the flash drive. We'll pull that out. I do feel quite a bit of heat coming out of the back here. So my system's working. Let's go to Crystal Disk Mark and let's first of all see what our performance is on the storage that's included. And I'm not going to run the full test. I'm only going to run the sequential read and sequential write. So this is the best the drive can perform. Under the best of circumstances, it won't go any faster than these numbers. That's respectable. We're at near 5,000 or 4,800 megabytes per second. We can go up to about 7,400 on Gen 4. With Gen 3, about 3,600 is the fastest with Gen. So once again, you know, they're not putting a super high-end NVMe drive in here. They're kind of going right down the middle, and that way they're able to keep the price down. And most people wouldn't notice any difference in performance between 4,800 megabytes per second and 7,400 megabytes per second. It makes a millisecond or very few milliseconds of difference in load times. So it does make a difference, but you almost need a benchmarking piece of software to actually show it to you. So, you know, unless you have an abundance of money and you like seeing those numbers, don't feel like you're missing out because this drive isn't performing on the high-end scale of Gen 4 drives. You likely won't notice any difference. So we're looking at about 3,900 megabytes per second on the writes. Again, we're still above Gen 3 speeds, which is really what I'm looking for. I want to see better than 3,600. In fact, writes on Gen 3 generally don't even go that high, maybe 3,000 tops. So that's worth having Gen 4, in my opinion, to see those numbers that are significantly greater than what Gen 3 could offer on a high scale. Now, with regards to Prime 95, let's bring up the hardware monitor here and see what our performance or our temperatures are right now, where we're just more or less idling and doing some basic things with the computer. We'll start with sensors only. And let me close that one. Let's close that. Okay, so we move this over here. APU temps, CPU. Yeah, we're very reasonable. We're in the 40s. That's pretty standard. It's a place that shows us all the cores. Okay, I was afraid this was for the GPU, but no, these are the individual cores right here. So this is our current temps down this aisle. This is the minimum that it's ever read since we started this piece of software. And this is the maximum it's read since we started the piece of software, this HW info software. Losing my voice. All right, now let's go to Prime 95. This is version 26.6. I stick with all the defaults and click OK. And I'm going to minimize this, close that. And we started this about, what was it, 20 seconds? So keep an eye on these temps right up here. And of course, the overall package temperature here, something to keep an eye on. And we'll see how this does. In the meantime, take a look at the chat room here. Victor says, hey, I came in a bit late, but I'm happy to see another live video happening. Right on. Well, thanks for joining us, Victor. Preston Key says, I am new here, but been watching so far. Enjoyed very much. Right on. Well, thank you. Try to keep everything real here. There's no corporate sponsorship. Everything you see is basically what I do for a living, what I've been doing for over 30 years and getting paid to do. Hence, I'm a professional in the industry and continue to work in the industry and make videos. It's almost like a 50-50 thing for me. I like to be in the trenches working with customers and dealing with the issues that customers have today. A lot of people making videos used to be techs, or they're just hobbyists. They've never been paid for a job. And so a lot of the advice they give, you know, when I see it, I cringe. So cringy. So I thought people should have a little more variety from their YouTube content besides what these enthusiasts do. Nothing wrong with what the enthusiasts are doing, but it's mostly all enthusiast-based content and primarily watched by enthusiasts. But if you're watching it and you think, hey, this looks like something I might want to do for a living, they're not, for the most part, doing anything that you would ever get paid to do. You know, in corporate America, no one's paying you to overclock, put in liquid coolers, or put in any RGB, or even computers with glass panels. So you might be in for an extreme shock when you find out what the job actually entails. It's very much unlike what you see in the vast majority of enthusiast level videos here on YouTube, which are primarily for entertainment purposes. So it's good for people, I think, to have, first of all, to know the difference. And rather than just complain about it, I'm doing something about it. I'm representing the working side of actual work that get, you know, like people talk about heat related problems. You very rarely ever get a call for any. People are just infatuated with computer temperatures. It's the weirdest thing I've ever experienced in my life. And a lot of things that are actual problems that people deal with all the time, no discussion. It's completely not discussed. And if it's not being discussed, unless you're a professional, how do you know it's missing? How do you know that the content they should be talking about, that they're not talking about? That's why it's so cringy to me. I'm like, why are they talking about this stuff that's way more applicable to more viewers? So when people talk about heat, they never talk about their power supply, never, ever. When people talk about positive or negative air pressure, they never talk about the power supply. So by not talking about it, you don't realize that there's very critical information that's being omitted and you have no idea. And to me, I would put more focus and attention on my power supply than all this other nonsense. It's a pretty critical component. So I run into customers all the time that have never, ever cleaned the filter on the power supply. It's suffocating and it's overheating. And that power supply can damage every component inside your computer. And it's its own little ecosystem. Nothing you do inside your computer has any impact on the cooling of your power supply. So why isn't that talked about more? So because it's not talked about, people don't know it should be talked about. I'm doing my best to raise awareness. And I can tell you the types of calls I get called out regularly to do repairs on very rarely involve anything what these enthusiasts are doing. They're having fun. It's great. Don't get me wrong. It's fun. But they're not getting paid to do it unless the manufacturer's paying them to like review a product when it's really just a paid commercial. So Some people don't like my format. Some people want to watch commercials. That's fine. But if you want a dose of reality, which we're getting less and less of on TV, even in the news, I'm trying to keep together to stand up for and promote reality. I realize I'm in the minority, but that's okay. My videos aren't for everybody. But if you're somebody that appreciates reality, I think you'll like my content. It's not all polished and edited and, you know, meeting an agenda so I get paid from a manufacturer to make the product look good or to say what they tell me to say or not say certain things they don't want me to talk about. Minisforum sent me the computer for free in exchange for review. There's no contract, there's no obligation. It's all done on a handshake, basically a virtual handshake. I'm free to speak my opinion honestly and truthfully. I have no agenda to praise them or to insult them either way. I evaluate each product on its own. Not every product they make I'm going to love. And not every product they make I'm going to hate. Right now, I can tell you personally, I'm impressed with this, especially at that $500 price point. That is a lot of computer for 500 bucks. Our temps, how long we've been running now? About 5 minutes, 6 minutes, and I got to walk a little closer to the screen and see what our highest temps, what have we hit so far? Maximum looks like 73.7 degrees Celsius. And we're in the low 70s right now currently. That's really, really good. And the fan really hasn't ramped up very much. It's a little bit louder than it was. I think it can go a lot louder. It might have to hit 80 before it'll do that. So we'll let it keep running until we hit about 21 minutes and 30 seconds, because I think we were a minute 30 when we started Prime 95 or thereabouts. And we're at 8 minutes and 30 seconds now. So that's about 7 minutes total time we've been running Prime 95. And we are doing quite well. I'm surprised, actually. I mean, on the one hand, when Minisforum says something, they generally, there's not a lot of hyperbole in it. It's generally straight up, truthful, repeatable information that you can verify. Not all manufacturers are that honest. Some manufacturers like to exaggerate their numbers, or they put fine print that there has to be certain conditions met to get these results. Minisforum, I've not seen them play those games. And for the most part, you know, when they tell you a system runs cool, it runs cool. Of course, we're a little less than halfway through the test, so it still has plenty of time to fail our test. But we're off to a very good start here. It's very promising. David Graham said this should be a great 1080p gaming rig and 4K video computer. That's overkill for a 4K video computer. But, you know, this is kind of an upper tier computer at a mid-tier price. That's what I would call it. Yeah, Jim KG3N mentions some mini PC manufacturers are so unscrupulous that they'll say the PC comes with Windows 11, and it does. But as we've identified here, it's not a Windows 11 compatible computer. They circumvented all the security checks to force Windows 11 on it. When I confronted them on it, I said, hey, you know, you said this computer came with Windows 11 and it's not Windows 11 compatible. And their answer to me was, well, did it come with Windows 11? I'm like, you circumvented the security settings. So, you know, it's not supported by Microsoft officially. They could stop updates, or it may not even, you know, if I try to put 23H2 on it, it's not going to go. You said it came with Windows 11. We gave you Windows 11. The problem is, like, they just play stupid about it. And those are some lesser known brands that sell for less. So just know there are some unscrupulous manufacturers and sellers out there. And I'm happy to say Minisforum is not one of them. B-Link is not one of them. And Ace Magic is not one of them. Part of Ace Magic is also Camrui. They've all been very good with regards to support, communication, and building good computers consistently. Other manufacturers have kind of been a mixed bag. I've seen some from VMAX that I liked and some from VMAX that I hated. I've seen some from Chewy that I liked and some. Well, Chewy's got me so ticked off, I don't think I'll buy another one. If you get a good one, you get a good deal, you'll be happy with them. If you don't get a good one, you're going to be very disappointed, at least in my experience, with the kind of support you're not going to get and the limitations of the machine itself. And then you're going to realize why it was so cheap. One way or another, there's an education in there. And if you're a gambling kind of person, and just again, I like to set expectations. If you want to go down that road, just know what possibilities exist. When I talk about Minisforum, B-Link, and Ace Magic, I fully expect that they're selling a quality product, and any exception to that is just that, it's an exception. It's not the normal routine, and I fully expect they're going to take care of you. So do know that. But again, my preference, Minisforum is first on my list, followed very closely by B-Link, and then Ace Magic. If you're looking, for the lowest possible price without getting complete junk, Ace Magic's going to be the best, the most you're going to get for the money, but it's not going to be made as well. Like the materials, the case, you might be able to squeeze the case. It might be really thin plastic. Maybe. Ace Magic makes a bunch of different levels of PC, and some of them are very comparable with Minisforum and B-Link. But again, when we're talking about price, when you get to that bottom of the barrel stuff, Ace Magic and Camrui, for me, are about the cheapest I'll go if it's something I'm going to rely on. Anything else, if it's just an unimportant computer, an experiment, a project box, then it doesn't matter. But if it's important, then yeah, I'm going to spend a little bit more and get that peace of mind. Hey, there's Buster joining us all the way from Scotland. Peter Laycock contributes £10. He says, good evening, Carey and Marlena and everyone in chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. The temperature in Edinburgh is 41 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 5 degrees Celsius. Seems like it's been in the 40s pretty regularly there for a while now. We definitely have to go to Scotland. It is definitely on a bucket list. See, how's our temps? We are, software says 14 minutes in. Our maximum has only gone up by a degree, so 74.6 is our maximum. We're sailing. This is looking really good. So that means, subtract a minute and a half off of the clock down below at 14 minutes and 30 seconds. That means we've been running about 13 minutes, just hardcore pedal to the metal, torturing this computer. We're doing RAM torture, CPU torture, and the fan is still surprisingly quiet. Check my phone here while we're waiting. Nothing. I haven't missed anything. Good, good, good. I get notifications when channels I follow post new videos, so I've got some content to watch later, it appears. Tony's RC said he's enjoying the stream. Right on, Tony. Thank you. We're getting close to the end of the test, another 5 minutes or so. I think we're going to sail through. It looks fantastic. My 14900K won't run this cool. Even when I get a good cooler on it, I don't expect it's going to perform this well. Yeah, we're still locked in. 74.6 is our maximum so far. And this isn't really a fair test to run on a mini PC. I'm going to tell you, you don't have the space for as much airflow as you would on a desktop computer. Same with a laptop or a tablet or even a smartphone, or even external SSD drives that you plug in. There's not a lot of airflow. They tend to run hot if you keep them plugged in all the time or you're a heavy user. They're not really designed to be 24/7, hit hard like that. So bear that in mind. When you're done with them, in the case of external storage, unplug it. Not only do you want to unplug it just for the longevity of the drive and the heat of the drive, but also if your machine were to get infected with a virus, it's going to infect anything attached to the computer. So if you've got anything like a backup that's critical to you, but you leave it plugged into the computer, it's going to be useless to you if you get infected. So for all those reasons, you want to unplug an external drive when you're not using it from the computer, whether that's a flash drive, an external hard drive, or a solid state drive. And again, because they're in an enclosure that often has no active cooling, they're not really designed to be plugged in and used all day long. They will generally overheat. And when SSD overheats, its performance goes down the tubes. It's just going to be really dog slow. So the fact that this is in such a small, compact case that is maintaining these kind of cooling numbers, very impressive. This is a Ryzen 9 CPU in here, I want to remind you. It's a Ryzen 9. It was a flagship processor not that long ago, like last year. And this thing is just rock solid. One of the benefits you get from getting a previous flagship is it's been polished, right? If you want the latest and greatest, you're on the bleeding edge. There's probably going to be some enhancements and fixes that are addressed in time of ownership that may require BIOS updates or driver updates. So if you let something exist for 6 months to a year before purchasing it, first of all, the price will probably be down, right? Because when something's new, it's going to be higher demand than there is a supply, and it's going to cost more. So if you just stay one generation behind, especially in the land of AMD, AMD's plummet in value like a rock. You can save a ton of money and get an ultra reliable computer where all the kinks have been worked out. Something worth considering. Planet Cryos contributes $2. He says, well, bye for now, Carey, and everyone take care. All right, well, you're not sticking around to see the end result, huh? I think the end result's going to be, it's just fine. We are almost there. I think we just crossed, oh no, we're close to 19 minutes. And 76.1 looks like the hottest we've gotten so far. And it looks like there's about two and a half more minutes to go. And then that will be our 20-minute torture test, which again, and I can't stress this enough, most mini PCs will not pass this test, nor are they designed to. It's a very unrealistic test. It's normal for people to have their computer boost during certain things you're working on with the computer, but it's unusual for your computer to boost for an entire 20 minutes without a breather. That's incredibly unlikely. So, and I want to reiterate that $500 price point with 32 gigs of RAM and 1 terabyte of storage. Plus we've got USB 4. Oh, that reminds me. Let me grab my SanDisk SSD and see what kind of numbers that's going to pull. Here we go. This little guy here is a 4 terabyte that supports Gen USB 3.2 Gen 2x2. And if you have that on your PC, that should achieve 2000 megabytes per second. So I don't know what this has. We can try it. I think, let me just walk up here one more time. I think our test is up, isn't it? No, one more minute to go. But still 76.1 is our maximum. And if you're curious what our maximum frequencies are and voltages are, I'll scroll through this here real quick just so you can take a look at that. And at any time, you can pause the screen if you need more time to read what's going on. Scrolling slowly. Okay, that's the bottom. Let me go back up to our temps. We've definitely been on now, shows 22 minutes, so we're over the 20-minute mark. And so I'm going to go ahead and stop Prime 95 and then watch how fast these numbers will drop in practically in half. Up. Here we go. Watch these temperatures. The fan never got loud. We're dropping. Now, let me plug in the SanDisk here. Put it right there. I think this is blank. Yeah, it's blank. We'll bring up Crystal Disk Mark. Change this to just do that top test there and see what it looks like. So still just 1,000, which is pretty common. I don't need to go any further than that test. I want to try the other USB-C port here. It says data only. Kind of curious what kind of numbers we're getting. They're likely going to be the same. Oh no, Michael suffered a stroke. Michael Dane, our good friend Michael Dane, needs some prayer to keep him in your thoughts. You told me this is a great family. I am Mike Jr., his oldest son. Well, Mike Jr., thank you for letting us know. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with him. I know he had a medical, something sent him to the hospital a few months ago, and then he was telling us everything was good. He was back to normal. So sorry to hear this has happened again so soon. But he's a tough guy, and I'm sure he's going to, I am sure of it. He's a tough guy. I'm sure he's going to battle back here, and hopefully we don't have any paralysis or anything. Certainly going to keep him in our thoughts. Peter Laycock says he's still recovering from his cold. Says we now have careers for my sister. Carers, I think he means carers, taking care of his sister. So she's, I'm assuming, back home. Michael Dane's a great guy, by the way. So please keep us up to date. And thank you for letting us know. And Peter, thank you for keeping us up to date as well. You know, his brother and sister are going through some medical challenges, but hopefully are both back home. Last I heard, they were heading back home from the hospital. And this drive, yeah, it looks like we're at 1,000 here. So just the standard I've been getting out of these drives lately. One of these days, I'll be testing this, and 2,000 is going to be the new norm. The drive has the ability to run up to 2,000 megabytes per second, but finding a computer that has that Gen 3.2, Gen 2.2, like I said, I've only seen like 2 so far, but hopefully that'll become more of a new normal. In the meantime, thank you to Minisforum for sending us the unit for review. It definitely has my endorsement. I don't really have anything negative to say about it. I like how they've improved the rubber feet, being plugs and that you can unplug them. I still prefer that you wouldn't have to remove anything at all, that the rubber feet would just simply have holes in them, or move the rubber feet away so that you could get into the machine. Typically, you wouldn't be getting in the machine that often. You're going to upgrade RAM, you're going to upgrade storage. How often does that happen? Still, I'd prefer the rubber feet aren't in the way, but this is an improvement. We're sticking with the standard design here on the box, so they're not going over the top aesthetically. They're kind of keeping it, just a plain black box. It's not much to look at, and that's what it's designed to be. They do sell other machines that are more flashy, if that's what you're into. And generally, the flashier it is, the more it costs, even though it's not necessarily bringing you any more substance. So I think for the practical folks out there that want something potentially for 1080 gaming, or even just, higher end big spreadsheets, things like that. You want to hook up multiple monitors. You can have 3 monitors at the same time with this. And it's going to cost you less than half of what an equivalent desktop would cost. I think it's worth considering. We've got another Minisforum mini PC to review later this week, along with one from Peloton. So I hope you'll tune in and join us. We are generally live nearly every weekday at 1 p.m. Phoenix time. That's currently 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And I hope you'll join us then in our live chat and continue to interact with us while we're live. We appreciate having you all here. Thank you again for all of the support and contributions. The super chats from Planet Cryos and Peter Laycock, Peter VZ, and David Graham. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. Also, Mark Gaines, Elijah 52 Dickens, our good friend Oystein, who watches us from Norway, Paul O'Brien, who watches us from Ireland, Barry Russ. Did I miss that one earlier, Barry? Thank you for your $5 super chat. The great CH blessings. Thank you, Barry. And Ian Gooch watching us from London. Gregory Howard, patiently waiting for his coffee machine PC. And Ben Laird watching us from Scotland. Thanks, you guys, for supporting the channel. Welcome, new member Cujo1357, who became a member. And Green Dragon became a member. Right on. Thanks, you guys. Elijah 52 Dickens also renewed membership, now on month 14th of membership. And then on the PayPal and Amazon, I want to say thank you again for the generous support from Oystein, who sent a $100 Amazon gift card, from Mark Gaines, who sent $23.68 via PayPal. And if I hadn't mentioned it before, our good friend Buster, Peter Laycock, sent a very generous Amazon gift card a couple days ago. And can't say thank you enough for the kindness and the support. So thanks to all of you. Hope you got something out of today's video. If you have an idea if this is for you or not for you. If you have any questions, anything I've left out, be sure and just leave it in the comments below the video. If it's something I can answer, I will. If it's something I can't answer, I can always ask Minisforum, and then the response might take a few days. So I do what I can to get you a response. Thank you for watching. If you buy one of these and have experience with it, love to know your thoughts as an independent viewer. Do you agree with me? Is there something I missed? Let us know. We love hearing from the viewers. Andy Kane said he's been a member now for 3 months. Right on. It's his 3-month anniversary. Just renewed support. Thank you, Andy. All right, and thanks to all of you. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, looking for an outro. Where'd my outro go? We'll just use this one. Until next time, bye for now.